không từ bi. Vâng nhà ba la mừng đa tâm kinh quán tự tại Bồ Tát hành thâm bát nhã ba la mật đa thời chiếu kiến nguồn độ nhân thiên khổ anh xá lời từ thiện vì không không vâng vì sáng sáng tướng thì không không tướng thì sáng thọ tưởng hành thức diệu phục như thì chưa có không tương bân sanh bân diệt bân câu bân tình bân tăng bân giảm thì có không trung tưởng hành tướng giới thị thiện thân ấy vô sáng thịnh hương vị sung nhận giới này chi vô thân giới vô vô minh diệt vô minh tận đại chi diệu vô lão tự tận vô khổ tầm diệt đạo vô trí diệu diệu vô sở đăng có bồ đề tát đoạn ba la mật đa có tâm vô quái ngại vô quái ngại hồn vô viện ly điên đạo mộng tưởng cứu canh niết bàn chư Phật bát nhã ba la mật đa đăng nào ngã bồ đề tát bát nhã ba la mật đa thị đại thần chú thị đại minh chú thị vô đẳng thị vô đẳng đẳng chú năng trừ những thiên thiện bân vô thiên chung nhà ba la mật đa vô vô viện đế ba la tăng yên đế bồ đề tát bà yên đế ba la yên đế tăng yên đế bồ đề tát bà yên đế la yên đế ba la tăng yên đế bồ đề ba pháp sáng soi giáo lý rộng truyền. Vì đạo quên mình bốn ơn nặng nhớ, thế giới hòa bình hết khổ đau binh mưa nắng thuận hòa chúng sanh an lạc. Đại chúng tiên tu tỉnh rõ lỗi lầm rộng mở từ tâm vì người làm gốc. Chôn chôn và làm tỏ hương đạo đức cho cả muôn loài quy phục tựa nương. Nguyện đem công đức này hướng về khắp tất cả đệ tử chúng sanh đều trọn thành Phật đạo.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. 마삼 제메 제로 바르제 마제 소소라리 이제제 마드송 제베 용노사 년도죠 저노 근신이 제니제 제바에 다로라 뱀바자나 마제니 가다야다 덴베토노 나바군데라도 제두저주 세베소저 산예기니 용달라 창세로 가게 되자와 조가와메바 자와메바 다메바 오메바 도메바 다데데메 데제메 도바니 도베산예마는 제담바 덴로 창세로. Now, last 2 days, we already discussed or explained the phenomena which sort of, changing, momentarily changing, all have a continuation. Among them, I think generally, in a subtle way, external things also no beginning. Even Big Bang. The Big Bang itself is happen because of tremendous sort of pressure. So there must be something which produced that immense sort of pressure. So go like that, no beginning. Beginningless. But there are cases and there's 400 verses of Arya Deva mention that. Then the consciousness is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, no beginning, no end. Now the part of the consciousness, joyfulness, pleasure, pain, suffering, these things. So there must be, it is unique causes. That's karma. So that is the general law of causality. So on that basis, the next life, beginning kasada, beginning less past lives, and also in the future, life continue. The desire, the pleasant life, always there. Now, not talk about next life, but within this life, in order to be more peaceful mind, more happy mind, ultimately related with a moral principle. That's clear. So even non-believer, there is no point to neglect about moral ethics, moral principle. With that, your life becoming more meaningful, more pleasant. Now, those people who believe some mysterious level, then according to theistic, our next sort of, how should they, goal, go to heaven. But sometimes we may go hell. But our main hope, main sort of target is heaven. Then, non-theistic religious tradition, several lives. Among non-theistic religious tradition, generally accept there is end of suffering. That's moksha. Jainism, Sangha philosophy, Buddhism, all believe, all have the concept of salvation, liberation. So obviously, as yesterday I mentioned, temporary goal, ultimate goal. Nagarjuna mentioned in Ranamalla, he mentioned two goals, temporary goal, immediate goal, and long-term goal. Temporary, immediate goal is good life, mainly human life, then ultimate nirvana. So in order to, how say they, in order to, how say they, I think prove in some way, in order to prove the possibility of nirvana, that we need a lot of sort of work, the nature of mind, and then the nature of afflicted emotion, and investigate whether there is counterforce or not. Now here, external sort of matters, among the external matters, like here, the whole become too cold, then heat increase. Heat increase, the feeling of coldness reduce. Coldness increase, then hotness reduce. That's a nature law. Light come, dark away. No light, dark come. Opposite. Never remain together. The temperature remain short period, but cannot remain together long period. Either stronger, other go like that. So that's the basis of change. If there's no contradictory force, then even material field, no change. So now, internal mind or consciousness, also the same law. Consciousness formless, just a mere sort of feeling or cognitive. But there is a contradictory sort of things. One consider this is this. Another consciousness consider this is the otherwise. So contradiction there. Lo sugjendu moduwa yindu ke sugjegi chona shiki gyawatsia yamarite lo zindang menja tane lo menja omagu yungu yawa yindu zane zindang gaya chane gyawa yungu yore.
So, however, in the domain of mental world, although we cannot see the kind of contradictory forces that we see in the material world, however, the diversity in the mental domain comes from different ways in which we experience the world. So different, manner of apprehension, different content of the cognition. So it is at the level of this content of the cognitions, then we can see opposing forces within the mental domain as well.
So that is the sort of basis to argue there is possibility of, change. Then the basic nature of mind or consciousness is pure. That is the basis develop the idea of salvation. So now how to, now on practical level, again Arya Deva 400 verses he mentioned Sona Mimba Tangbordo, Pardo Dan and Doborchi, Tamardashi, Gundova, Tishitini Kavayins.
So the sequence of the practice of how to cultivate that and perfect that Buddha nature to attain enlightenment is explained in Aryadeva's 400 stanzas, where he says that at the initial stage, one needs to avert all acts of demerits, non-virtues, and the middle stage, one needs to let go of grasping to self, and then finally, one needs to let go of grasping to all forms of false views. And he who understands that way of approach is truly wise.
So now, Sunami mo tangpo do seade nyumungi wangi chungwe nyeju di sunamaimba leshe de doya di riba tangpo che dan di kasa de non-virtuous non-virtuous domyata di sunami mo tangpo do che.
So the first stage of the practice, which is averting from actions of demerits or non-virtue, and this is actually what we spoke about yesterday, which is the practice of morality, constituted by avoiding 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind. So it refers to restraining from negative and destructive expressions of the destructive states of mind. So these are more at the level of behavior, and restraining from that kind of behavior is the first stage of practice.
That 10 non-virtuous acts, I guess almost as common for all traditions. Killing, of course, even according to law, so you have to restrain. Then stealing, also you see, must sort of restrain. Then sexual misconduct, particularly abuse, rape. These also according to law is wrong. So whether we accept religion or not, we have to follow these rules. So it's the same act, restrain these sort of act, but it's due to motivation. It is the side of virtues, big differences. Restrain killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, out of fear about law. No virtues, sort of, Kasure, nothing. No gain any virtues. But then, in order to achieve next life, good life, or even I think aiming to born heaven or to reach heaven after final judgment, we have to make pleas to God. So non-virtuous work is in a way compassionate work. So therefore, through that way, with such motivation, then restrain these commitment, gain some virtues. Right? Then motivation, I want to achieve salvation. The obstacle of the salvation, now mainly from Buddhist viewpoint, in order to achieve salvation, the real obstacle of the salvation is this ignorance. So now, the distorted ignorance. So in order to, in order to reach there, firstly, I have to restrain the wrong actions due to distorted ignorance. And also that ignorance as a basis, and then further sort of, the grosser level of destructive emotion, that is anger, hatred, attachment, these things. So the first step, all those destructive action motivated these negative emotion. That's the first step. Then second, those things which create wrong motivation itself stop. After eliminate that, that's the salvation. So, since all these negative emotions, you see, based on ignorance, general ignorance, and particularly distorted, the ignorance. Therefore, the only method to remove that is wisdom. There are a variety of wisdom. One essential wisdom is that all these negative emotions ultimately related with self-grasping, ignorance. So we have to deal with that. So the Buddhist sort of concept, selflessness. Selflessness, because of the two meaning. One meaning, infinite altruism, reduce selfishness. So that also one meaning of selflessness. Another selflessness meaning is no independent self, which we usually, particularly when we develop anger, hatred, jealousy, attachment, you have this sort of strong feeling of something independent, solid,
self.
Yes, absolute sort of self. That's non-existence. So understand that it automatically weakens negative emotion, which is based on that. So that is about unique Buddhist approach. As I mentioned the other day, total sort of devotion to God, total submission to God, that also some sort of effect to reduce self-centered attitude. So one day, one my Christian friend, now he no longer with us, but very nice Catholic priest or monk. He shows genuine interest about Buddhist sort of altruism, compassion, these things, and also single-pointed sort of meditation. Then he told me, according to Christianity, there are also some meaning of empty. Empty means here, you totally submit to God. So you simply servant of God. No sort of, the independent self here. So that also he interprets as some kind of sort of emptiness. Then one day he actually inquiring about emptiness according to Buddhism. Then I told him, this is not your business. This is Buddhist business. Because, Buddhist sort of concept of emptiness, no independent self, no independent existence. That kind of sort of idea, if much sort of familiarized, then it might become hindrance to sustain single-pointed faith to God. God, absolute or independent. That kind of sort of faith, another information say, God also relative. Then his or her sort of single-pointed faith may reduce. There is sort of the danger of a misunderstanding. So I told him, this is not your business, like that. So in any way, all major religious tradition, from the Buddhist viewpoint, whether they accept the next life or not, they already accumulated sufficient sort of virtues to get better life, next life. So therefore, langarship with the area, Thami Tegwa, Sangbe Tegwa, Nyarang Tegwa, Chanjusebe Tegwa Sungdwa.
Because of this, in the Buddha's sutra, the Lanka Avatara Sutra, Descent to Lanka Sutra, the Buddha speaks about various spiritual vehicles, and he refers to them as vehicles of the celestial beings and humans, the Brahma vehicle, vehicle of the Shravakas disciples, and vehicle of the self-enlightened ones, and so on.
Di gabadiye majawanam jawa, majawanam jawa, umoshimbo uyuwa sene, gombulu jeju semdik jevena to sungduwa. Jazanga, Thami Tegbe, Dungeji Dunge le Tegores. Thami Tegwala Danes, da Adang Shediad, Migijubungi. Da Logda dia, so Gobdokia Logda Shimburwata. Jazanga, but the same has Lugilas, Ngag Shisaki, Patch Jibur. 다 럭다 메다중그리 디급도 그냥 자투로 자 이리서 미기주 사이드 패지 투봉을지 될 때는 치봉건도 두야디 가다 가서 치봉건도 두니 동해지 동에 슉 잡고 내걸래 자와지 제도도 와 자상가 세미 택배 동해지 동에 자와지 다 상배 택봤어야 되기 세지고 신의 권네 신의 저도 제가 전에 시라게 남바쟁이 직전에 상동 범니 애니 쑥쑥 밀게 하지. 디상배 되고체. 다 안더디 맞아걸로 저서리 디디리샤 가서 주디. 내게지 또 추샤. 상배 태괴 맞아와는 저디. 대외 동해래 리식탄. 죄송합니다. 대변 유목문 유방 소와 땅용 소와 동해인가 소와 대화인가 소와 땅용 같은 것들이 맞아오는 자세지. 다 전에 냐랑게 태괴 근데 맞아오는 자세지. nyumbe chungwa le mato de torcha ta jene ene rangshin be tuni tarchimbe gone ene dewe umochi uyong chasidi chanjusi be tebotche.
So, for example, in Nagarjuna's commentary on the awakening mind, Buddhicitta Vivarana, he commenting on a specific passage from the Tantra or Sutra, where there is a reference to liberating those sentient beings who have not been liberated, bringing to freedom those who have not attained freedom, and providing relief to those who are not attained relief. So Nagarjuna correlates these to the diverse spiritual vehicles, and he says, for example, with relation to the Brahma vehicle really refers to a spiritual path where the practitioner is able to use the path of single-pointed meditation and attainment of deep states of meditation, which then lead to the transcending the experience of the desire realm, even of pain and pleasure, the dichotomies of pain and pleasure, and move on to a totally equanimous state of existence and attaining form and formless realms. And then on the basis of the vehicle of Saravakas and Pratyekabuddhas, the disciples and the self-enlightened ones, Nagarjuna says that through this path, those who have not attained freedom from unenlightened existence will be able to attain freedom from unenlightened existence, samsara. And finally, on the basis of the bodhisattva vehicle, one will be able to attain ultimate relief from all forms of limitations and defilements. So in this context, one can also understand that the practice of basic morality that we find in all the spiritual traditions, for example, when we speak of the avoidance from 10 negative actions, 10 non-virtues in the Buddhist context, except for wrong view, which one will have to define contextually in relation to whatever spiritual tradition one is following. All the other lists on the virtue, all the other items on the list are really common kind of to all the ethical traditions of the great world religions. So except for the specific nature in which one defines what constitutes wrong view, avoidance from all the basic morality in the form of avoiding from the 10 non-virtues is a common practice to all. And on the basis of that practice, one will be able to gain a temporary relief from the first level of suffering, which is the evident suffering, and attain a more fortunate forms of rebirth. And that is an attainment that can be achieved even from, all the other spiritual traditions as well.
So Nagarjuna mentioned the temporary our goal, the better life, that for that main method is faith. Then the ultimate goal, liberation, the main method, that is wisdom. He mentioned that. So particularly here, the wisdom, he refer understanding the ultimate reality. So I think yesterday I already mentioned all the destructive emotion is based on that ignorance. I think, according to our own experience, I think I already mentioned, you see, when we develop attachment or anger, the object appears very positive or very negative. Actually, that is all that based on appearances. So appearances, it's our sort of concept or perception on the basis of appearances is actually illusion. So now, in order to weaken that, try to know the reality. Of course, I have not much sort of deep sort of experiences, but still, it's a more sort of feeling about the ultimate reality, emptiness. And then, while I remember about that, then this appears as an illusion. So that immense sort of help to reduce grasping. That actually weaken the basis of attachment, anger, hatred, all these things. That's Buddhist technique. So now here, all sort of practice, combination, of Buddhist practice mainly, combination, wisdom and dimberikti.
Those aspects of the path which primarily takes the form of aspiration. For example, the aspiration. For example, true renunciation, which is the genuine aspiration to attain enlightenment, that is also a form of aspiration. And furthermore, when we talk about bodhicitta, or awakening mind, in fact, the bodhicitta is defined as the aspiration to seek enlightenment for the benefit of all beings.
So same wisdom, which understand ultimate reality, same wisdom, due to different motivation, aiming mere, self-liberation, and motivation, liberation, entire sentient being. So liberation, motivation make differences, but main method is same, wisdom, which understands shunya, like that. So now here the verses tell us, 9th. Sisum dewa zazi sivashins, yuzum shiki jigwe chujing, namyam minju, talbaya gobansho tono nyewa jasa lale yinsu. Ta, Chisi nyumungbe xiangwangdo gyurbe ringtela nego jigita dungayi dungayi shi gyue dungayi shiyar chungyeba yene ku dungayi tsawa tenzi kasul pige kaatu tenzi meba sotu meduzane ko eni pu zambu chene yama rechakre 강다르 둥이지 둥에다 뒤에 둥에 리식 매바 이나야 두지기 둥에가 심대야래 뉴몬베 샹와제 더동 차대야래 된제 인도 상로 야오지 담배 이나 디 땐도 대화시 자는 말이스 된제 인도 전에 다 응원도 편소 데 내가 답절해 대상로 촉시된대야 말이스 내가 둘째 응원도를 때네
So we read stanza 9, where Thomas Sangbu writes, "The pleasures of the three realms, like dewdrops on a blade of grass, are objects that perish within an instant. To strive for the supreme state of liberation that is never changing is the practice of a bodhisattva." What the author is stating here is that while we remain within the confines of cyclic existence, even though occasionally we might attain states that are temporarily free from evident sufferings, including even sufferings of change, but while we remain within the confines of cyclic existence, we always remain under the power of ignorance, and so long as we remain under the power of ignorance, that attainment, that state, that temporary relief that we might have attained is never going to be stable. So therefore, it is not adequate to simply be contented by attaining a fortunate rebirth, and rather one should utilize that opportunity accorded by that fortunate rebirth to seek a definite goodness, which is the liberation.
Yeah. So then, here not mentioned, but they, I think, explain few words, in few words. That's the, now what is the method to achieve nirvana, salvation? Since the main obstacle, I mean, since the very meaning of liberation is liberated from ignorance, distorted ignorance. So the real sort of method or real counterforce of that is understanding of shunyata. Now the wisdom, which, as I mentioned yesterday, 3 levels. Understanding through, I mean, from hearing or reading. Then the second level, understanding as a result of your own thorough investigation. Then third level, understanding is not only through thorough investigation, but also make familiarize so that it is something living. Without effort, it automatically develops that kind of understanding, feeling. So now, that kind of the third wisdom, third level of wisdom, is the counterforce. So in order to achieve that, like our mind scattered. When I meditate, if some noise come here, like in Washington or these big cities, pew, 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 like that comes, then immediately his mind go that way. So we need is a real sort of complete silence sort of place. So in any way, even if we remain the silent sort of silence place where our mind always very active, go here, go there, go there, go there, like that. So that must be controlled, not by force, but by sort of mental effort. Mental effort only come through voluntarily. Mental effort never come through force. So, that now the single-pointed mind, which you call shamatha, that also is a common in India. 1,000 years, the old tradition. That's, I say, the common practice. Sometimes I do feel we Tibetan a little bit of neglect about that. Because in the excuse, this is something common with non-Buddhist. I think that's a mistake. Now, according to my own little experience, I think as far as some understanding about shunyata, I think I have some. That also is as a result of last, now more, I think almost 50 years effort. Even before I left Tibet, I already developed genuine interest about that. Then after I came to India, I sort of, how should I make regular effort to study, to think, to analyze. So now, I think when I remember about that sort of, what should I, view or that sort of the reality, some feeling there. But due to lack of single-pointed mind, so it cannot go further. So in Heart Sutra mentioned gade, para, samgade. So unless you have unless you experience single-pointed sort of meditation, the gade is meaningless. So if we really serious, gade, go further, go. We are very serious, then we must start practice of samadhi. It's very important. Single-pointed mind. Now the main method, single-pointed sort of meditation, is the Chambada Shishin.
Cultivation and application of mindfulness and meta-awareness or introspective awareness.
So here, mindfulness means the object which your mind concentrates, that thoroughly hold. That means imagination or picture or reflection of that in mind must hold. So that means the mindfulness. Then, not only that, but the mind must be very sharp, full alert. There's a little bit sort of hazy object there, but your mind some kind of relax. It is because of the great danger of proper samadhi. So your mind not only holding the vision,
the image, the object of your meditation,
but also your mind must be fully alert, very sharp mind. So whether such sort of obstacle develop or not, shishin.
You need this introspective awareness which monitors.
So these two things are the main instrument to develop single-pointed mind. For that reason, in our daily life, including our dream, some kind of sort of memory, what is right, what is wrong. And with that memory, mindfulness, and then watching whether your mind or the mental action, verbal action, physical action, whether go these wrongdoing, the wrong side. Watch, constant watch. So that is Shila practice. Shila.
Training in morality.
Morality. So it's a constant sort of watch, whether by physical action go right way or right direction or not. Constant check. Whether my speech, whether my verbal action, whether go the right way or red way. So like that. So the three training, the training of Shila, morality is the basis that develop these two practice, mindfulness and
introspective awareness.
Then the second practice, that is single-pointed mind. Once we experience that, then no matter what focus, the conventional things, or mind itself, or shunyata self, then wherever your mind put, your mind sort of single-pointedly remain there. That immense help to penetrate the point which we meditate. Now here about shunyata. So that's the three training. The main method to achieve moksha or liberation is these three practice, three training. That is Theravada tradition, Bodhisattva tradition, all same. Without that, you cannot go further. Yes, we can train, you can study, you can develop altruism, But actual path, without samadhi, without paranja, you cannot go.
Meditation, morality, meditation, and wisdom.
So that's about how to achieve liberation. That is given
So with that, from this framework of the three practices of the three scopes, the initial and the medium scope practices are done.
Now from here, about what you call Mahayana or Bodhisattvayana. When the word Mahayana, greater vehicle, Mahayana say sikdi jil chok me say di desu tenjok sa shekiru da re ma do rikashegi nganzo Mahayana yin any hinayana slono chik torjar jil chikdo wa din no barda hinayana the tekjun the tengmen the tekjin siddhati 그런 삼바 자치죠. 랑든 또 삼셔버디 삼바 자치뉴. 난게 태도 왜 심지어 삼이야지 삼바 자치 뭐. 텔러 때네 애니 삼바 치중 예외 인도 삼바 차와 텔러 때네 멤버스잖아요. 대신도 그게 람 드베 네글리네 친주 바로도 신부 조감 바로도 신부 쭉 된대게 다 냠니치야. 다첨부지 예배 차네. 내 당부변 내거네. 랑든 지구 랑이 검제부 지구 뭐 셴리야다 진보동야. 셴뉴 dom야기. 그다 랑 셴뉴 dom바서도 마세베 랑든 이지 dom베 추적. 된대게 토네 그 자체로 심어 인도산에 바르기 람디에 다쳐. 대러 때는 대부 구시고 방원도 치야지. 그다지 냐랑 자좀 슬러이나 하람을 하면냐데 슬러디 지 시외 인으로 장자시래도 와. 지 다시다는 랑도 추구 소리 봐도 야마르와. 다 택신기 미유디 치도셔 셴드도 삼아 인도산에 셴드 수구도 쪼래도 와. 자상가 랑도 야 타르치 셴드야 타르치를 샤요. 이제는 데뷔 느글이 그 가쳐래도 와. 텔러 때네 애니 치중 샤워 레마도 태권 멤버십 torture 집에 쌓이는 말다 디지션 거야셔.
With respect to the term Mahayana, great vehicle, I think a point needs to be made because sometimes people when they hear terms like the great vehicle versus the lesser vehicle, Mahayana, Hinayana, sometimes there is a danger of from the perspective of Mahayana looking down on the teachings of the Hinayana or the lesser vehicle and feeling that these are something to be shunned, something to be discarded. And that is, however, wrong because we are here talking more about a kind of a relative terms because in any case, these kind of terms, great versus lesser, is always going to be relative and contextual. And greatness of a particular approach has to be explained only contextually within a particular framework. So, for example, if we look at the Mahayana approach or the approach of great vehicle, we can see that even on the initial stage, the primary motivation that inspires the practitioner on the path is not seeking one's own liberation alone, but rather seeking the elevation of suffering of infinite number of sentient beings equal to the limit of space. So from that point of view, a spiritual motivation to seek enlightenment for one's own sake is referred to as being lesser. Similarly, on the path, if you look at the Mahayana aspect of the path, you have practices of 6 perfections or sometimes enumerated in terms of 10 perfections. So even on the beginner stage, while on the path, the Mahayana approach involves engaging in such activities as altruistic giving, engaging in altruistic helping of other sentient beings, and not just morality in the form of restraining from harm, but rather restraining also from kind of following after the tendencies of one's own self-interest. So from that point of view, one can contextually, within that relative context, refer to the spiritual approach where the practices does not include these to be lethal. Similarly, on the resultant stage, if you look at the resultant state of arhat, and particularly the nirvana without residue, the nirvana without residue is really defined by a state which is total pacification of all suffering and afflictions, but it is completely negatively defined. It's a state of pacification, whereas if you look at the ultimate objective of Mahayana practice, which is the attainment of the full Buddhahood, and where out of the four bodies that together constitute the attainment of Buddhahood, the form body and the truth body, of these for the Mahayana practitioner, the primary objective is really the attainment of the form embodiment, because it is through the medium of the form body Buddha is able to fulfill the aspirations that you have made as an unenlightened being. So when you attain Buddhahood, you will be able to fulfill those aspirations by bringing about the welfare of other sentient beings. So from within that relative context, one can speak about lesser versus greater because of the difference in the aspects. But that does not mean that the teachings of the Hinayana are something that Mahayana practitioners should shun or just totally discard.
Now here, in Buddhist history, after Buddha passed away, then some sort of, Buddhists, they argue whether you say Mahayana tradition really taught by Buddha or not. That question comes. So Maitreya Buddha, or I think Maitreya Bodhisattva, I think better to say that, Maitreya Bodhisattva, and then Nagarjuna himself, and also the Bhavavega, a great scholar, great sort of Madhyamika philosopher, great practitioner, then also Shantadeva. You see, they raised the question. Some people doubt whether these Mahayana teaching taught by Buddha or not. Then Nagarjuna, I think Nagarjuna the explanation, this seems, I think, very, very good. So he mentioned finally the essence of Mahayana is infinite altruism and the wisdom. So what is wrong? That is very true. If the essential sort of part or essential sort of the practice of the Mahayana, something logically also wonderful, and then at the practical level also, infinite altruism, so wonderful. Whether you implement or not, that's a different question. Otherwise, you see, no point to criticize. Then such wonderful teaching, not taught by Buddha, but later his follower created, that also sounds a little strange. So then, indirectly, we have to sort of accept second Buddha or third Buddha. So that's one thing. Then also, you see, the Mahayana, on the basis of Hinayana's teaching, like 37 or 37 point, and the Four Noble to all these yesterday I mentioned. This is the basis. The further develop, the Hinayana also you see very much sort of emphasis about Karuna. So the further sort of increase that, further sort of special effort to increase that, that's the Mahayana. So no problem. Then again, some Buddhists, even you see among the Mahayanists, raise some question whether there is Buddhist Tantrayana or not. Tantrayana is Hinduism. So some Hindu practice take Buddhist name. So actually, there should not be Buddhist Tantra. Buddhist Tantra. Now here, if you go only historical sort of factor, also is complicated. So I think real, I think important thing is what's the substance. We must investigate the substance. Then, without a Sanskrit tradition, it is rather difficult to bring conviction, existence of nirvana. Very difficult. The ultimate ultimate sort of reason, or Buddha stated. Then, in Buddha's own word, there are some contradictions also there. So difficult. So only through reasoning, through investigation. So therefore, there are a lot of reasons mentioned in Sanskrit tradition, like Parmana Buttika Karika, and also the many other sort of Sanskrit tradition, Sanskrit text mentioned. After study these things, then you develop real conviction. Oh, it is possible. Existence of nirvana. And then mere Sutriyana, Mahayana Sutriyana. Again, the four kayas, or the immediate or the substantial causes of Buddha's body. Very difficult. Mari Paja, the Dajames, Yakovan Levis and the Chick Satombo Levekadu, Dajamani Shashane, Mari Paja Sat, Sami the Chivigir and Shingu Sage. Hakjebe, Mamelen from Pungu, the Mava Chasa Jella, Yiru the Pechukia Sare. Yiru Kadir Mari Paja Sat, Sami the Chivigir and Shingu Lucy. Tim Mari Paja Sat Jivsha. Mari Samji Mikeve Kasachut. Dushi Tamuti, Digani Shegdua. Numubidu, Chidavidu, and a Kare Pungudu, and a got Hypidu. Cheneota, Pungudu, Shizane, Maripaja Samuel, Vigilation, Shegdua. Numubidu Shizane, Shidu Shegdua, Maripaja Sat Shegdua. Saturday Duzane, Kanda, Ju Matakwale, Give, Lu. Ji and to me, Pacha the Java, Jangbe, Debu, Sugu, Yeling Jula, dressing the Sharashaka. So today you do Zane, part of the Shimbe, take back of Kushinamsha Sung Yardi, Kushi Drudan de Tadon, or the Sanji Sumba Ridon, Sasso Shashi, Halamri. Da Sanga Doja take back Shune, Yuki Nelu. 파르도심베 대백군의 송샤버디 차상 예배 타나 아니 유진 로이 땡네 타라 체네 아니 로데다 냠돌이 영역이 다 먼저 룽스기 어디 패지 에너지를 야가르스도 에너지 든데지기다 내가 터네 근데 수주야 시도 와 티도 상담던데 대 캔사도 양사로도 상처로 올라셔야지 자장가 상제베 상아예베 주지 타도는 되리 상아 제셔를 맞은바 구신 주단 셔야 싫어가고 그러셔 저도 도스니 간다 루주 찍고 뭐 이렇게 그래 슝듯네 샤샤데 단다데 상다도 쿵직니 잡아셔베 있나 아니 산제를 캐베 로빈지 샤카고 그래 근데 인도 대신 산제가 송 마도 그렇습니다 다가는 신그 상아도지 택배 슝네 샤샤베 람디디 다시 뭐냐 전에 내가 쳐보게 되지 저 뒤에 이번 인도산에 다 상아도지 택배 저거디 아니 산제가 송을 산제 택신근 너도 줘야 돼 다가는 신기 어다 택신근 가수를 그게 슝네 송은 신기 구시 남샤지 대바이나 롱주도 그 뒤야래 근데 인도산에 초고 주고 무슨 어딘데 롱주도 그 송어딘데 용쇼래 근데 인도산에 상아도지 택배 저거도 나로래 초고 주고 냥에는 대차래 제래 롱주도 그 구이 뒤에 라다고 몰이야经过 주니 经过 샨디 아니 유지를 송야 그 용초 그래 자 근데 인도 뒤에 대박이면 누가 상하고 저거 대대대 점대대 샤네로 니지숨지 심이 제일 중요해 스티 점대대 송 말을 faire 가고 있잖아 어느 사지 점대대 캐마랑체 구시고가 캐마랑체 근데 셔고 중에 야 가고 있잖아 점대대 택명이 중 송원의 지체니 강사 탐해버지 애들 도시된리야 시대에 있는 거 봐서 사서 상태가 됐어 디공리야 섬전을 찍고 주네 가고 있잖아 장미순지 소화사고지 누구야래 장미순지 소화사 산업범위지 내 개발 자이바라 싸니 되네니 시버탐에다 접수서도 연구야래 다디 초유름부 든제지 싸니 탐은 거 봐서 상계니 로크즈에 수주십주래다 공로 순주 소주는 실 상계래 공로 순 소주 상계니 이 공로 교지서도 주래 아니 장미 순지 초사 산업범위지 다 한러버지 싸니 저부 튠통도 좀 보다 매매이나 윤전 저저 소리도 와 엔투 다다이네 좀 된데 셰스야 이것도 좀 된데 무엇이지 셰제 숨도 줘야 되는데 영향도 와 한다 땡아다 조금 오시면 쳐러지 가지고 셰스 탈랭기 자주면 고바 토버스에게 내den지 좀 된데 셰시 코로 자주면 관리해야 되고 셰시 드네 있는 공기 좀 된데 상면이 안 된 건도 전에 리부틴치 레멘도 좀 된데 도스제니 드니스니 가서 숨야 샤버를 쓰는 와 별 강제 전에 있네 지금 드네게 타고 나온 잠을 샤야 되봐 멍구야도 와 가셔 객신이로 참으로 객신이스도 돼야 말해 자 이제 인도산에 대주제디 지 구시 고반지 되베이나 상하를 쳐봤어야 돼 땡대 유아지 구시 고반 남샤디 상하를 나오는 때는 마도 시야가 가고 있어 자 다들 구시 고반지 예베이나 초고 주고 냥한테 심비제리 때부터 시상용야 땡대 용시 어떻게 되시죠
So I was explaining that even within the Mahayana tradition, there were questions raised about the authenticity of the Vajrayana teachings, the tantric teachings, or as to whether or not there is such a thing as the Buddhist tantra. However, if we do not take into account the authenticity of the teachings of Vajrayana, then it would be very difficult to have a fuller explanation and understanding of the nature of Buddha's own reality, which is constituted by the embodiment of four kayas, the Dharmakaya, the wisdom body, and Sambhogakaya, the Buddha's body of perfect resource or enjoyment body, and perfect emanation body. So it is very difficult would then be to explain what is the kind of the material basis from which these Buddha body arises. Now, if we don't bring in the Vajrayana perspective, then we have to give the full explanation on the basis of the sutra teachings, in which case then we will have to explain the arising of the Buddha's form body on the basis of the continuity of the mental body of the Arhat being, who when he attains the nirvana without residue, all the aggregates, physical and mental aggregates that were the product of karma comes to an end. So what continues is a mental body of that Arhat being. However, that mental body is that mental body is still characterized by having arisen from a kind of a ground of ignorance and also uncontaminated action or karma. So how can a body, the mental body that has that kind of impure element, serve as the kind of the final cause of attainment of a perfect form body of the Buddha? So because then there would be a disparity between the nature of the cause and the nature of the effect. However, if you take into account the explanation found in the highest Yoga Tantra, then the arising of the Buddha's form body is explained on the basis of the continuity of the subtle energy, the vayu or wind, literally wind, but it really is better translated as energy, which is always kind of accompanies the processes of our mind. And it is this continuity of this subtlemost energy, from which when the individual attains Buddhahood, the Buddha's form body arises. And so there is a perfect kind of a commensurability between the nature of the cause and the characteristics of the effect. And so without bringing in the explanation of the highest Yoga Tantra, the nature of and characteristics of the Buddha's form body, we will not have a full explanation of the nature of the Buddha's form body, and particularly the cause and the factor that would give rise to the attainment of that. So therefore, when we try to understand the kind of the origins of Mahayana, or particularly origin of the Vajrayana teachings, I think it is important not to be totally confined by kind of a conventional historical perspective. And I don't think, especially with respect to the Vajrayana teachings, I don't think we should not even be confined by conventional conceptions of time itself. I don't think the arising of the Vajrayana teachings need to be confined to the conventional time of Buddha's lifetime. In fact, we know even the Tantra themselves explains the origin of some of these teachings on the basis of Buddha arising in the form of Sambhogakaya, enjoyment body, and assuming the form of the principal deity of the mandala, and then revealing these teachings. So these teachings, the origination of these teachings need not be contingent upon the conventional time frame of historical Buddha's lifetime. Otherwise, if we confine our understanding of the Buddha's, origin of the Buddha's teachings, and also the nature of Buddhahood, just to the, kind of conventional historical perspective, then we will have to accept that, the Buddha was an ordinary person, and when he passed away at the age of 81, that was truly the end of the Buddha. If that is the perspective we have to adopt, then it would, from a kind of a Mahayana perspective, it would not make much sense, because, you know, an individual Buddha who has accumulated merits for over three innumerable eons, in order to attain a state where he will be able to bring about the infinite welfare of all sentient beings, and then after having attained enlightenment in his mid-30s, and then has the career period of only about 40-something years, and then that is the end of, that was the kind of the culmination and perfection of his aspiration. Somehow that doesn't seem to be right. Whereas if you take into account the understanding of the Vajrayana teaching, where Buddhahood is understood in terms of the embodiment of the four kayas, then, you know, you could begin to feel that there, you know, this makes sense. Then you can understand. So I think it is important for Buddhists particularly to take these points into account.
Oh yeah. So now.
Sorry. So because if the death of the Buddha in India, the historical Buddha, marked truly the end of the Buddha, that would mean that there would be no possibility for people to have visionary experience of the Buddha. In fact, I heard a story from someone. There was a senior Thai Thera, a monk who attained Arhat state, and then in his meditative kind of experience, he had a vision of the historical Buddha. And then this master is supposed to have stated that, our understanding that the Buddha, after he passed into parinirvana, was no more, doesn't seem to be true, because I had actually had a visionary experience of the Buddha. And similarly, in the case of Tibetan tradition, we have many accounts of pure visions. Of course, some of them may be false claims, but it is also very difficult to say all the claims are false either.
Oh, so some of my friends, actually some sort of extraordinary sort of experience. It's still, there are some sort of mysterious things there. So we have to find sort of explanation. Through that way, then you see these explanations are very, very helpful to understand these things. These strange phenomena like that. Now, about altruism, Bodhicitta, the 10th shloka. Now, altruism, not difficult to understand, but very difficult to experience. Shunyata, little difficult initially, the meaning, understand the meaning. And but because of the meteor channel message, and that's how you are. Nangdo nibuti.
Yes.
Now 6 do Dongbadi Yaoming, Dongbad 6 and now Yaoming, Nangdo nibuti, that's Kangai. Takanda Minjan Tayu Zambi Yabata.
So with respect to emptiness, cultivating deeper understanding of that is quite a challenge. It's difficult, particularly developing understanding to a point where you are comfortable with maintaining this tension between the kind of, appearance on the one hand and then empty nature on the other. In other words, being able to accord the reality of cause and effect and everyday function, efficacious function to a world that is devoid of inherent existence. So a world that is purely designated, a pure construct, that kind of maintenance of that kind of balance is difficult.
But then, once you understand, as a result of further investigation, further think, it becomes quite easy, become clearer. And then some kind of feeling can develop. So altruism, very easy to understand, but the actual sort of experience is difficult. But there's no other choice. We have to make effort. My own case, I think some understanding about this shunyata, I think my age in 30s, already some understanding. But then at that time, I really feel difficult, the infinite altruism. Admiration there, but real sort of feeling at that time, I feel some distance. Then gradually I received oral transmission of Shandadeva's book. Then constantly read, think, and think every day. Think. Meditate on it. Then gradually it becomes something very close. Now I have full confidence. If I have time, I think the development these two, understanding of Shunya and actual experience of bodhicitta, I think within this lifetime, I can develop. That's quite sure. But my excuse is I have no sufficient time. So then those people who have sufficient time, then there's no other excuse. So you must implement. One time in Montserrat, in
Barcelona.
in Spain. Barcelona. I met when I pilgrimage that monastery. One Catholic monk came to see me, and the organizer told me that monk spent 5 years in the mountain behind that monastery. 5 years. And 5 years, very little hot meal, tea, bread, like that. He came to see me, and I asked him, I was told you spent 5 years in the mountain as a hermit life. What kind of practice? And he mentioned, meditate on love. When he answered that, in his eyes, there is some special significance. So I really sort of developed admiration and respect. So like that, I think 5 years in the hermit sort of life and meditate. I think some result definitely can develop. So like that, now 76, another 10 years, 86, then another 10 years, 96, then ready to say bye-bye. So I'm wondering whether there is real hope or not. I don't know. As I mentioned earlier, according to my own experience, if you make constant effort, daily basis, the mind definitely can change, can improve. That's a definite. That I can assure to you. These are not just storytelling, not like that. It's something. Laboratory here, no need big mission. Here, carry experiment. Then your whole attitude can change. Result, you become much more calmer, much more happier. Particularly when you face some problems, your mental level can maintain peaceful. So that's benefit, practical benefit, like that. So now, altruism, there are two ways to practice, or two methods, traditionally two methods. One method, the first is to remember how kindness one's own mother. This is also generally speaking, but some mother is terrible. So one time in my public talk, one question asked me, that questioner's mother is very bad. So how can I develop sort of concept, all other sentient beings like your own mother? He find it very difficult. So such things also is there, of course. But generally, you see, the mother really give us this body and nurtured few years like that. So therefore, even animal very much sort of appreciate about their own mother. So, and then extend to other sentient being. Also, you see, one or another, say our mother, or at least some close sort of friend, and thinking that way. So sometimes I, you see, have joke, you see, telling people, when we usually say, express mother-centered being, they sound very nice. But if we say father-centered being, oh, something different. And particularly in Tibetan, the margensum jet ham just no, medicine yachik town on those hash. Pargensum jet ham just
The Tibetan expression, the phrase magen, the word gen can connote kind of like an old soul, you know. And so it goes really nice with mothers, saying old mother sentient beings. But when you use it in relation to the term, male or father, then it can mean that old guy, it has a pejorative connotation.
So that's one way, see, to extend sort of appreciation of kindness of other sentient being as this life's mother. Go like that. That's one way. Another is much more powerful. That is, think yourself, self-centered attitude. Obviously, that extreme self-centered attitude creates fear, distrust, jealousy, anger, attachment, all these troublemakers related with that. It's very clear. Then finally, ruin your own health and also ruin your friendship. All these negative things, all trouble, ultimately related with extreme self-centered attitude. More altruistic attitude, then no basis of jealousy, no basis of anger, and also much reduced fear, because altruistic mind brings inner strength, self-confidence. That reduces fear. Very clear. Whether believer or non-believer, this mental sort of system, psychological mental system, that kind of nature. So more grasping, your whole thinking becoming something very stiff.
Very stiff.
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 Then things become difficult. Once that loosens, things become much easier. Now some scientists, some medical scientists also now begin to realize that, like that. So as a result, your health improves, you get more friends, you get more sort of smile, and that automatically brings you feel much happier. You can be a happy person like that. So thinking these lines, and then, of course, from the Buddhist viewpoint, as soon as altruistic sort of attitude develop, no ground of killing, stealing, because of the sexual abuse, all these things are telling lies, deceiving, all these, no ground then automatically stop. Not thinking some kind of danger, some kind of sort of negative consequences, not thinking that way. Simply develop genuine sense of concern or sense of well-being of other. Then there is no room to kill, to harm, to cheat, to tell lie. No. No basis of hypocrisy, right? Like that. So, ngandru lamne doji chi, turi lamne rupde la, gashi mebar janki be, chanchusam chasalo chayade shivshire doa.
So when you think along these lines, then you can truly appreciate the significance of the words. For example, in prayer of loving kindness by Maitreya, where he, talking about the bodhicitta, he says that I bow to bodhicitta, the awakening mind, which turns one away from all the paths that lead to unfortunate birth, which takes us on the path to fortunate rebirth, and which brings about a state that is totally free of aging and death. To this I pay homage.
So, as a result of practice of altruism, you can take 100% sort of sure next life will be a very good life, no question. Then also, you see, that kind of sort of mental attitude also immense helpful, you see, to achieve moksha or liberation, and finally Buddhahood, like that. Then also, I think, best way to counter for our enemy. The enemy creates some trouble. If you lose temper, if you develop hatred, then the enemy really successfully done the problem create in your mind. If you, in spite there are sort of, because of the verbal action as well as physical action. Or physical action, sometimes you have to run away. Like mad dog comes, then still you say, compassion, compassion, that's a foolish. Then you have to run away. Otherwise, you see the verbal sort of criticism or sort of negative verbal things, and also the mental sort of hatred, things like that. You see, never hurt, never harm directly you. So, as a result of practice, practice according to Shantadeva's book, particularly 6th chapter, you can maintain your peace of mind. As a result, the enemy actually fail to bring trouble in your mind, isn't it? And then, when I was young in Tibet, some official, very old, the people used to say, oh, this official, he never easily used to lose temper. once he really develops anger, and he shows more smile, and his attitude becoming more gentler. And then he take opportunity to hit back. So similarly, without sort of agitation in your mind, calm mind, then look, calculate what is the weak side, because the weaker side, right? Weaker spot. Then take opportunity, the right opportunity to come, you can hit back. Isn't it? So like that. So that also, not out of hatred or out of anger, but actually out of genuine sense of concern of his or her well-being. If we let his or her wrongdoing continuously, it harms themselves. So out of sense of concern of their well-being, then appropriate countermeasure. That's the Bodhisattva's work, Bodhisattva's practice. Like that. It is wise. So like that. So therefore, the best sort of countermeasure for troublemaker practice altruism and keep your mind peaceful and develop sense of compassion, sense of affection towards them. Then eventually, that enemy, if enemy, sort of sensible enemy, eventually, there is possibility become your best friend, like that. So the altruistic sort of attitude is really, really, really precious. Although it sort of special explanation, special training, or special emphasis in these Buddhist texts, but can applicable to everybody. Our Christian brothers, sisters, Islam, because of the Muslim brothers, sisters, and so on, the others, without sort of change their faith to God. Since it's the same practice of love, compassion, forgiveness, so you can take these methods like that. These are common practice, common aim, common practice. So then the verses continuously, all you see, mainly, more or less, you see, related with altruism. Now, 18th verses. This one. 18th, 19th. These two shlokas emphasis for practitioner. When you passing through really difficult period, very unfortunate sort of situation develop, then at such case, there is danger losing your effort or losing your sort of optimism to practice. So at that time, you must pay more attention. One. Then 19th mentioned, other hand, very successful life. Many people praising you. Such moment also, you see, there is danger losing your practice. You become more arrogant. So we must pay more attention at such moment. These two things there. Then 20th, 21st, these two particular sort of advice about attachment and anger. Then 22nd, about shunyata. Now this composition way. 좀 특징이 샘삼에 룩스테네 말이다. the umar rangyu ba Najashi umarang yube look the tene tayudeva. Yeah, take us over again. Sunday young room is tene tayudeva resha.
So this particular stanza, stanza 22, which presents the meditation on contemplation on emptiness, the style of the composition of this stanza is such that it can be read according to the explanation of Yogacara Madhyamaka, or one can also read the explanation according to the understanding of the Prasangika Madhyamaka as well.
And
then in verse 23 and 24, the author explains the practices and particularly the perspectives that one cultivates in the post-meditative equipoise stages. Yeah.
Then follow the practice of 6 parameters.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that the key part of that post-meditative equipoise stage is the awareness of the illusion-like character of phenomena. And then from the next stanza onwards, the practices of the 6 perfections, beginning with the generosity, is presented.
Mm-hmm. So, the 31 sort of sentences, that is quite important. For me, it's very important. So, it mentioned, suppose we are practitioner, we are believer of Buddha Dharma. So it is not sufficient, just change our clothes. Rajumba Sakala, do Buddha Chingzina China, Tisundua. Some them lock by Lada Ki, some them Comiada Kazori, Lobo Terson the Bon, some they said. Some them Kaza,
Lopelin.
Some them Bon, some they said. Lobos and the Lobotasm, some then lob at Lada Ki, Lula, Nimulang Charles. Murmik Kansam Ki Chope, Samba Namian Mijos.
So this particular stanza, which is stanza 31, which reads that if you do not examine your own confusion, you may, under the guise of Dharma, do non-Dharma things. This is an important one, particularly in my own case, because otherwise, one might feel that simply changing one's clothes and appearance is adequate to attain Dharma realization. For example, in a Vinaya text, it states that it is through the cultivation and practice of meditation, as well as engaging in the study and cultivation of understanding, that one needs to eliminate attachment to one's body and so on. One should not have the attitude that simply by putting on the saffron robes is adequate for one's Dharma practice.
This one?
No.
So, as a monk, as a practitioner, we must constantly watch yourself. Whether I really carrying my physical contact, verbal contact, manners of the contact or manners of work, really carrying according my practice or not. That's very, very important. Otherwise, appears as a believer or here as a Buddhist, particularly Buddhists who practice altruism. But yet, our real sort of lifestyle not go according to that. So we must constant check. The Vinaya Sutra, all the precepts, verbal contact, verbal action, physical action. The Bodhisattva Yana precept, mainly mental action. So essence is sort of discipline, selfish sort of thinking, that way. Now there are 37 verses finished. Then later, another sort of Bodhisattva sort of said, a Tibetan 119 English kazudo shamshamditu shamshamdere pede shugde
Tsikyemadre.
ha
Tsikyemadre.
odi landa tsikye
Page 53.
These 8 verses, one great practitioner of Buddhist altruism, he composed that. So this only 8 verses. So I myself daily recite that. And then also, you see, when I have sort of leisure time, now for example, when wait at the airport, if one information say, or 1 hour delayed, then I sit to think these repeatedly. Then no feeling of boring. Without doing such things, then wait, or another say, or another 15 minutes delay, and little frustration. Then 20 minutes delay, more frustration. So, other hand, if you have something to think, then no problem. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours delay, okay. Just to think that way. So these are mental work, not relying on sort of sensorial things, as I mentioned yesterday. So these 8 verses, since my childhood, I learned by heart and constantly sort of chanting and reflect the meaning. So no need to read. Okay, now the Kamalashilas. Chanju jisemjina number 2 days, kuzo da tanda bao, tala kunzo ba ning jisemjen sada de didwa chuche. Da dene tanda chanju semsa dinda.
Then, having explained the need to cultivate bodhicitta awakening mind, then in the text, Kamalashila goes on to say that the bodhicitta is twofold. One is the conventional bodhicitta, awakening mind. The other one is the ultimate awakening mind. And we have already spoken about the conventional awakening mind, so we will now turn to the ultimate awakening mind.
So the second part, they actually wisdom which understand ultimate reality without dualistic way.
No. Dualistic appearances.
Now here, Sheven Dorandiri, Shiptao Shekwa, top of the Tommy need to say. She Sama the Semin, the Lockship, the Sabs, the Mungu, doesn't share the shoes cash today.
So, when cultivating better understanding of the nature of the ultimate truth, it seems to be important to have some understanding of the ways in which our mind functions and the diverse aspects of the mind. For example, there is the conceptual way in which we can engage with the world. There's also a more direct sensory way of modalities, and also within our understanding, cognitive processes, some of the cognitive cognitions are true and valid, veridical, and some of the cognitions are delusory. So there are different ways in which mind operates and functions and engages with the object, and one needs to have some understanding of that.
차든 안들디 똑바도 또미 로이 주다 또미 시버드제 주변 유를 주도 전에 주변 주다 똑바 주도 전에 똑바 세ven 주고 신주 대주야와 신과래죠.
Particular importance is to have some understanding of the difference between the conceptual versus non-conceptual modalities, engagement with the object. For example, the non-conceptual, such as the sensory experiences, they're more immediate. They engage with the object and are more immediate without the mediation of concepts and constructs, while conceptual processes such as our thoughts, they do not engage with the objects directly, but they are mediated by constructs and concepts and so on.
Pani chanzo tu siya ngaya tu tete zane, de ya tete du migi sheba tomirwa, tomi sheba di du sa tete du di bet dachabu ji talame ji tongde doa. Di tongya ki ngobu di tadate pena jemjum ji du pur jugiyo na. Di tongde gola, chasang tongde gola. Tada ngoy zo kar yeba tongde gola. Ine di tongde gola di semla ngeba kin jigim doa. Ta ngeba daya di tongde ba di na ne cherago ji gala loziru tenche. 다 되도 이루래 용이야. 이루 똑같아야 돼. 그 디가리아 디 난게 나로 차상지 도스 여대가 다다 열심히 되게디 도 샤데베 나네 가서 우리 배 내주 치라고 야 믹스세네. 다 믹스세체. 다 디가라 있는 도주 가서 예배다 들이 찍어래도 가면 도와. 사마로 다 딜레인도 이루간 거래요. 다티 뿌리치네. 다다 열심히 뒤지고 뭐인데 딱 가서 편제 중사르지 똑바로 샤되겠지. 양 중줄지 똑바로 지 샤대야로. 근데 턴에 쟤네고 치라고지. 된다 치라고 된세 치라고 뒷마도 된셴 파세니. 자도 똑바니 세ven 주고 왔으니 대만인디 파세니 코라 된다 치라고 뒤. 뒤에 인지민지 다다 열심히 뒤지고 뭐인 봐. 거라니 가사지 유두른신 제니용 돼야지. 도미기 유두른신 만져봐. 다다 뭐인지 통댕해. 캐버 가리는 이 통댕해. 도모되기 유두른신 제니 가사케니 여대부터 지금 된적이 있니 내셔다지리 나한테 통상을 롤레이드잖아요. 네 직선의 유두른신 제니용 되기도 와. 애니 캐버를 찍디 세ven 죽었으니 그 치타고 찍디 그 동루로 되어마다 샤다디디 상당도 올라졌다금도 봐. 그래서 딘나가 저기 잘하셔. 이리 셔봐야 돼.
So for
내가도 세르부님도 계시디 또 또보또미 야쳐오레스. 냠뇽부터 하는 거 캐버 이번에 싱글도 단 레저간에 캐버 딴데요를 디 캐버는 제국도 셔디.
So another important point of difference is that conceptual modalities tend to be highly selective, whereas the non-conceptual sensory modalities are not selective. So to give you an example, you are looking at me here. So on this stage, when you are simply looking, your visual, whatever is within the field of your vision, your visual perception perceives all of this. And visual perceptions being non-conceptual is immediate, and its objects are also what is present now. So there is a kind of a nounness in the relationship, and whatever is within the field of your perception, including even if a big butterfly happens to fly by, your visual perception will perceive that. But however, that does not mean that you will be able to then bring recollection of every single aspect of the object within that field. In order to bring this kind of recollection, then you need to pay a selective attention to a particular aspect of that object within the field of your vision. And then by choosing selectively, you will then be able to bring awareness and consciousness and recall it. So you can see that by the time you recall something, you're already moved beyond the non-conceptual to the conceptual mental level. So the mental level tends to be highly selective, but limited, but highly selective, whereas the non-conceptual modalities tend to be more expansive, inclusive, but without this ability to recall all the fine aspects. Another important distinction is that the non-conceptual modalities, they do not conflate time and space. They perceive what is there in front of you in real time, whereas conceptual modalities tend to conflate time. So the object of the conceptual thought processes need not necessarily be what exists now. You can recall something that you saw yesterday. You can start even asking questions, what I see today, is it the same as the one I saw yesterday? And then you can even feel that, yeah, I saw the same thing yesterday. So you are, in a sense, conflating time and also conflating space and also the objects as well. So that is another characteristic of conceptual modalities. So, and this is something that we all kind of, do on a daily basis, in our day-to-day experience of the world. And this is something that we can experientially kind of, recognize these kind of differences in the modalities of the way in which we perceive the world. And therefore, in some of my discussions with scientists, I have actually asked them, since at this point there doesn't seem to be a systematic differentiation between the two in the scientific approach, and since experientially we can see the differences between these two primary modalities, clearly there should be some representation of expression of that on the level of brain as well. So I asked some of my scientist friends to see if they could see the, explore the difference on the brain level.
So now the Shilani would talk about Shilani would take Shilani would take Shines Luduzane, go Karuda, go superb, Mikbo Tichibu Mado, Tele Shembe, Yulia, Sem Chodi, Pa Shine, and Mikbo to the station never. Nada Koya, Mikbo Zindam Mashawachin, you have some Michowa, the Tagilo, sang or them. That is good. Dishness. Any sugar, Mikbo Zeju, Jogbe, Togi, Lucishangi, Dawakini, the there is this in the law. Zeju, Henny, doing a thing in the dishne, Senor Charge at the library. Hangdons Lona, Hopper Tons, Ludu, Hopper Tons, Roto Tons, called Jaja, Turn Teller, Jeve, Largilla, Chichim Shiva, Chichim Ton, Roto Shiva. That Hangdon Yolia, Jet of Gi, Yan Lucishan Dewa Gang, the Dig Simbi, that social of a shit of the Hangdon Jet. The Dig Luzane, Hangdon, social dog, Shirogi, you Jenning, ever chance some Moimbe, Lucishan Dewa Simbi, Jet of your time with Lucishan Dewa Simbi, who you were in Luzane, Jet of your time with Lucishan Dewa Geva La, Jogo of your time with Lucishan Dewa Togo, the Masona, no. The day we use an Hangdon Tower, Shining about the Tokowa, Montreux. Diana Lami showed the recovery, Shila Jigja to be at the day, Sugiari. Hagor to Shinelia, Machines of Hangdolia, Nature you mentioned Sibina, Hangdon Jagong Cavalry, Nature Lamilia, Hangdolia, Jogomiari.
So then the next is this actual practice of cultivating shamatha, tranquil abiding, and vipassana, special insight or penetrative insight. And the word for calm abiding or tranquil abiding is shine, shamatha. And the Tibetan word is composed by 2 syllables, shiva and neba. And shiva connotes tranquility and calming. And here calming implies calming the mind from all forms of distraction. And abiding connotes the stability of the mind. So as explained before, it's not simply adequate simply to have the stability of the mind that is unwavering, but also along with that stability, there needs to be a presence of kind of alertness, some kind of vibrancy, vibrant kind of quality, alertness. So this is what is referred to as shamatha. And shamatha, or tranquil abiding, is attained when the meditator, as a result of cultivation of shamatha, arrives at a point where the person is able to maintain one's focus single-pointedly on the chosen object of meditation, and through this process give rise to the attainment of physical and mental pliancy and the bliss that is accompanied by it. And at that point, the person has attained true shamatha or tranquil abiding. And a special insight or shamatha, vipassana, the Tibetan term is laktong, again composed of 2 terms. Lakpa means special or something extraordinary or something special or something kind of completeness, and tonga is to see. So what is being indicated here is that it is a form of seeing and form of knowing that is very thorough and it is special. And so here, again, ascertainment of the truth, which is the object of your meditation, alone is not adequate. In fact, that ascertainment has to be grounded in the stability of a single-pointed mind. And as a result of the application of analysis, if one is able to produce, again, the attainment of physical and mental pliancy, suppleness of mind, accompanied by a blissful experience, at that point, the person has attained vipassana or special insight. And because the attainment of special insight, particularly the physical and mental suppleness or pliancy, brought forth through a process of analysis, is what constitutes special insight. Therefore, special insight can only be cultivated and attained if one has attained shamatha in the first place, because in order to attain that kind of physical and mental pliancy brought forth by analytic process, one needs to have attained that kind of physical and mental pliancy brought forth by kind of a single-pointed placement approach. And therefore, attainment of shamatha precedes the attainment of vipassana. This said, however, in the highest yoga tantra, there are techniques where both of these are cultivated simultaneously and attained simultaneously. That's primarily because in the highest yoga tantra practice context, then vipassana or special insight need not necessarily involve a discursive analysis.
자자가 조진의 착진의 아니 대돈 있으면 다가다 현지기대 주동이 고미야 되죠. 그거를 조금 보시게.
Therefore, for example, in the approaches of Dzogchen, the great perfection, and Mahamudra, the great seal, and also the
사계한다 규숨 크두기 아니 콘데 예매기 다 고민되잖아요. 조금씩.
And also the approach we find in the Sakya tradition within the context of the 3 tantras, where focus is on cultivating the view where there is equation or equanimity between samsara and nirvana. And similarly, in the highest yoga tantra approach of the Gelug tradition, where the approach is union of bliss and emptiness, where emptiness is realization of emptiness is cultivated at the level of simultaneously arisen bliss, great bliss. In all of these contexts, there is no discursive processes involved. It's completely a single-pointed, absorptive placement type of approach.
Oh yeah, that is surely the puis surely the gada 주민가 인지 걸려서 아들들이 야라도 뭔가도 당하니 륜에 지하들이 륜에 기둥
Tela Tomashi Rishinen to Barchates Drebe.
is one of the Tatadinda de Casa Duna give you said them Sonala Jesu Yera Chelas. Then she do jump down the Jesu number Nazi, Kimutu the Wam, Kimutu Chedonia Rundis, Mega Hajan me Shivala Sokota, Didi, and Luna Nanang the chair.
And then we read from page 44, the last paragraph, where the author explains the physical posture of a meditation practice. He says that then he should sit in the full lotus posture of Vairocana or the half lotus posture on a comfortable cushion. The eyes should not be too widely opened or too tightly closed, and so on. So here, the physical posture that is recommended is explained in terms of what is known as the sevenfold Vairocana posture of meditation.
Any
and one needs to keep one's kind of breathing not too shallow or not too hard, but rather in a very natural state of flow. However, when one begins meditation, if one finds one's mind to be rather kind of agitated or distracted, highly distracted, then it is helpful to apply the technique of doing deliberate breathing exercises, such as the 9 rounds of breathing meditation.
And the Lord Guru says that Naruchuru Nange Guru said that Chiare. This cancer medicine.
So one of those techniques of 9 rounds of meditation is the one found in 6 yogas of Naropa, which is actually quite helpful. So maybe we could do it together.
So,
while you do this, just be mindful so that you don't hit your neighbor with your arms. So those who don't have much space, then it's fine, but those who have space around them could just give ourselves more space. So keep your spine straight. And your 2 palms are folded in on your knees. And then you drag it upwards on your body and then push it in front of you. And then you go sideways. And then with your So with your left finger, block your right nostril, yeah.
단 너무 영원의 야 우릉구 자태 엔드네 야 두두스 추수샤제 너무 예만마 우마다 우다베 그도 또 롱두샤제
So then you take a very long breath through your left nostril and then release it from your right nostril. But when you do so, you push your tummy, you tuck your tummy in, your stomach in.
Like that 3 times. Now the other one, other way. Again.
You bring up your hands, push them in the front, and go right, and block your left nostrils.
Three times. 다 독신다. 신주 독신.
Again, keep your palms in a wrist, kind of like a folded fist, and put them on your knees.
다 너무 니자네 양무. 엔드네 너무 니가네 마다. 또 롱자.
So again, this time you breathe through both nostrils at the same time, very deeply. Then as you release them, again you tuck your stomach and tummy in.
우양무도 전에 누구도 수체. 우마 치유의 그도를 인주도 살려.
So when you breathe in, close your wrists, your fist, sorry, and as you breathe out, then release the fist by opening your palms.
Like that 3 times. So altogether 9 times.
9 times.
So if you want to hit your neighbor, then in the excuse I'm exercising this yoga, then you hit. those chene yang ko da yaur jare semji tu de ko dul ta ti tanya chen to su lu ku du sa chebi na yang ko da lo nam do de gi be ji chadang gi be sumoro ya lang de ba ti da ba ko ni ya.
So this kind of breathing exercises is actually helpful to bring the level of your mind from this very agitated, distracted state to a much more kind of calm, settled state. Because initially, when you start meditating, you might find yourself completely preoccupied with all sorts of things, objects of attachment, aversion, and so on, which kind of, bother your mind. Whereas when you do this kind of breathing exercise, then the mind is brought, kind of in some sense, turned away from those kind of immediate distractions to a more settled and calm state.
Yeah, now the object, right? Object which we concentrate. Here mentioned Buddha sort of image. And outside. Not in the sort of eye consciousness, but firstly you should look Buddha sort of image. Then reflect it in mind, in mental level. The image, visualize that image in front of you, one smaller one, and imagine very heavy, and then very light, a lot of light.
Bright. No. Bright.
Bright. And according to Tantrayana practice, then you yourself visualize as a Buddha's body or different sort of deities, or visualize according to Mahanudara Yoga Tantrayana, then visualize channels and one particular area, some syllabus visualize and concentrate on it. Then another one, mind take as object. So here, about memory, about past, deliberately stop. Then vision, future, hope, these also stop. Then momentarily, you see, you may feel something empty. Because usually our mind always is either experience, feeling, or some seeing or hearing. So our mind always because of the nanginyoda, chi now tindiji ko number chi. You number tindiji tebe toki number terisha tebachi.
Most of the time, we experience our mind either in the form of, taking on aspect of the external objects, the stimuli, or taking on the aspect of some kind of internal experiences such as sensations or feelings and so on.
Shebe yu she sadi yu te namden to kebe gone any yu rigula she so.
So in fact, when we talk about knowing something by our mind, we are talking about a process where, in a sense, the mind takes on that object as its aspect or as its content, and in this way come to know that object. So within the Buddhist schools of thought, Vaibhashika is the only school that does not accept the notion of kind of an aspect of an object, rather tends to see the operation as more of a mirroring, whereas all the other Buddhist schools understand the kind of the perception of object by means of taking on the aspect of the object. So the conversations that I've had with scientists, on the question of perceptual processes, it seems that the scientific understanding seems to be closer to those mainstream Buddhist thought, which understands that the perception is not, the process is not a simple mirroring. There is some kind of aspect is constructed on the object, which then comes to be the medium through which perceptions occur.
Di number shatan deleya kare sungzin tangyamba onga chezeba nazo nimiba. Ada chenri shatan de nazo nimiba rigundige. Rib samchu. Bena chanzi mi shirjigi. Yi number tao nazo yedenge. Di din zinji lo di ko jigran shetig do samchu. Nazo nimiba sa dirisha.
So no. So again, on the question of then, how does the perceptions take on the aspect of the object? What exactly is the process? Is it the case? And then this was another topic of discussion within the Buddhist schools, where some schools of thought upheld the notion that it was kind of a depending upon the diversity that exists in the object, the perceptions will also have that many corresponding aspects. So it's kind of the correspondence between the complexity of the object and the multiplicity of the aspects on the perception. Other schools maintain that it's more like a splitting of egg into half. So when a moment of perception occurs, what is happening is it's like a splitting egg into half. The one half is the object, the other half is the subject. And however, another school of thought maintained that irrespective of how complex the object may be, when a perceptual moment occurs, the perceptual moment itself is singular and unitary. So, for example, if we're looking at a multicolored object, corresponding to the number of colors there are, there wouldn't be equal number of perceptual processes. There would be only one unitary experience. And and this is the position that has been held by most of the mainstream Buddhist thinkers. And again, in conversation with scientists, that seems to be a position that is closer to the way science understands occurrence of a perceptual moment.
원부 시발 때 야우샤도 나서 님이 보세요 따다주도아 일을 강을 큰데 제고이나 원부 시발 편에 가서 그러나 천지민시도 차잖아 그 유차오 나서지 샤대지 도와 되는 아는 애들 때리잖아요 나서지 통되도 도와 다디 시발 직체 천지민시 직상치 서지 또 똑바로 가르치고 있네 또 유치라고 지금 무슨 미고 또 강치에서 저기나 가시나 이제 상당히 하시도 돼
It's just occurred to me that clearly this explanation of the irrespective of the complexity of the object, that the actual perceptual moment is unitary, seems to make sense with relation to sensory experiences. But I'm wondering whether that also applies to the conceptual thought processes, because the thought processes are much more selective.
먼저 남주 천시 소유인데 천지 미시스도 천지 똑바스도 봐.
네 왕실마도 똑바자가요. 되긴 자진
천지 왕실. 천시 지송다. 하던 거지 광치세바다 나도님이 보셔야지 남주한테 천지 미시사 시험들이 원부시버 걸수도 와. 다들 원부시버 때 참배 이루 똑바들라. 가 집에 있나? 아이나. 가. 똑바로 있는 왕실 가는 것도 똑바로 능해 봐. 자서 왕실 되게 되면 나네. 대용 거를 뒤난 게 미국 치다고 지가 미국 말고 똑바로. 가서 책딩 거든 전문도 개발해서 다 통해서 거기 가서 띵 거디.
같이 거고 랑신지.
가. 오부시버들이야. 도미시버리야. 개발해서 다 통해서 저띵 거기 가서. 남자들 책이. 야, 기시什么时候学的呀？可是啊，看不到他的痛，一定过的可是。看程序，看。哦，对对对，可是啊，
看清我个，
看清我个你痛。실제 잘 모르는 중마소. 실제 쌀좀 만들어 섬기다. 아, 개화교다. That's better. One sort of sentence from Siddhe.
Pramana Vatika.
그러니까. So one later part of the sentence I remember. The previous one now seems nobody remember that. One person mentioned that, supposed to recall that, but the sentence not nice. So I doubt his own creation. not, not the Dharmakirti's work. 그래서 거짓말부 통이 가.
어디를 디지털 거부 통화이
거짓말부 통이.
통화이 연대다 통화니.
This is that, just that. Now, okay. So now another one. So you see, when we stop the memory about past and not let visions, hopes in the future, then that moment you get the feeling nothingness, empty. That's not emptiness. Because you see, we so much use, you see, our mind fully sort of cover on these sort of feeling or experience or because of image. So while you maintain that some kind of emptiness, that little prolonged, prolonged, then you get the feeling or experience some kind of mere illuminance. Sorry.
Mere kind of clarity or luminosity.
Something mirror itself, nothing particular, but reflect everything. So that's just the reality, conventional level, reality of mind. It is neutral, pure, just mere illumination.
No, luminosity.
And then concentrate on it as long as you can. Then once that become familiar, then that take as an object, then further investigation about the reality of that. That must be designated on the continuation of that experience. So that also composition of several parts. So what's mind? Further investigation you can't find. So then touching the ultimate reality of the mind. So that's one thing. Then another thing, I think compare sort of what's the image in the mind, little kasota. I think something that when chi meeting with you lot of shan samya dele ya dots chai so shi ya nang shibal mi ya de chi de ne ya dots ra ga so chi di unong de yin ya shi shan.
One very useful object to take as a meditation focus is really your own breathing, because it is not as coarse or gross as taking on a physical object as a focus of your meditation, nor is it as so subtle like taking your own mind as an object of your meditation. So simply for taking the respiration process as an object of your meditation for shamatha is really helpful.
So that is just concentrate on our breathing. You completely concentrate on single point to concentrate on breathing. Just coming, so that going away. Coming, going, coming, going. Even you can count. Like that. So 20, 50, 100. This is one way training our mind so much scattered now trying to because of that.
channel.
give some kind of discipline. Go like that. Then your mind, now this time I also notice, you see the sadhana, the sort of chanting, the whole sort of 2 hour, 3 hours sort of sadhana.
Chanting.
Is to concentrate as much as I can. Of course, words go not stand still,
No.
but go, the mind catch up each word with visualization. So 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours go very quickly. So unlike previous sort of previous experience, now this time I notice that I myself give some little congratulation. My mind sort of concentrate on particular sort of thing. Seems a little improved. So like that. So the more training, discipline about mind. A grosser level of object like breathing. Then go to more subtle object. So that's about meditation. Now, the vipassana, I think now no time. And anyway, day after tomorrow, when the beginning of the Kalachakra initiation, automatically involve concept of shunyata and buddhicitta, and also, so with because of the shunyata, the vipassana automatically involved. So it deserves day after tomorrow. So thank you, finish. Already stopped. Hello, yes. Whenever I give initiation or vow, like Bodhicitta vow, I always make clear that up to now, this is just a lecture. There's no need any tamzik.
There is no need for, up to now, as just as a pure lecture, so there's no need to create a kind of a teacher-disciple bond.
Or samaya, usually, you know.
No.
So now the next 3 days from day after tomorrow, that is actually some kind of vow, given vow, Bodhicitta vow, and also pledge about altruism, and then tantric Bodhisattva vow and tantric vow and initiation. So then our relation become something like guru and disciple. So the samaya also involved. Therefore, I always make clear. Previously, I myself also worship about Shungden. And then around 75, I notice it is something wrong. Then I carry several sort of investigation. Then finally, I saw fifth Dalai Lama's sort of one expression.
Writing.
And then it became very clear the Shungden is Merlam Logwe Tamsin Jumbo.
So fifth Dalai Lama in his writing very clearly identifies the nature of this particular spirit as a destructive force that has arisen as a result of a distorted aspiration.
So then, firstly, I myself stopped. At that time, both my tutor alive, I report fully. Then senior, or say the tutor, no involvement. He himself little suspicion. The junior tutor, Trianamuche, due to his sort of guru, he also they carry, worship the spirit. However, when I explain the way my investigation, he fully understand. He fully appreciate what there must be reasons. So then I feel very happy. So then eventually other people who also, you see, sometimes facing some unexpected difficulties. Then again, you see, investigation, then these unfortunate things, you see, disconnected with this sort of worship of this spirit. So then I made clear all my sort of investigation, or because of my decision out of investigation. Then some people deliberately opposing that. So since then, I made clear whether worship that spirit or not, up to individual right. But if you worship continuously, then please don't receive vows and the initiation from me, because then it broken
The
Samaya.
No.
Not only me, but all previous Dalai, since 5th Dalai Lama. The 13th Dalai Lama also put a lot of restrictions like that. So anyone who also worship that spirit there, then please don't come. Like that. And in case some before used to worship that, and then out of sort of full of knowledge, if you go to stop, then okay. In case someone who stop, they worship that spirit, then no need any fear. That I can give you because of the guarantee. No worry, 100% no worry. So no problem. And actually, we are Buddhist. Our real refuge, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, not a these spirit. That should know. Like that. So, thank you. Good night. See you again day after tomorrow.